Hello everybody and welcome to Hidden Wonders of the Iziko South African Museum. With over 10 million specimens in our collection, these are grounded in social history and natural history. There is a significant opportunity to unlock wondrous knowledge from the collections that gets used in applied research as well as decision making towards societal benefit. And these are the people that work here to bring all of this wonder to you.
When we're looking at wonders of nature, we really looked at it and reflected on how far we've come. And some things don't change, like we still are curious, and that curiosity forms the basis on which we get all excited. I still pull out a drawer in a collection and it just does something to me. It's just like, wow, this has a story. But then when we realized the stories behind them weren't being told. And so this is sort of where the exhibition started.
So in the past, archaeological and anthropological displays specifically have been this cabinet of curiosity. We see that globally. What Iziko and other institutions are trying to do is to change the perspective of how objects and people, their stories are represented, rather than it just being a series of pretty things on display. We connect them to modern people, to people that are diverse, to people that are transforming in a transforming country.
When I look down my microscope, the thing that really catches my attention is the element of discovery. The idea that you may discover something new just by looking at these different organisms.
I find the unexplored diversity of insects absolutely thrilling. When I come back from the field and I have a bulk sample of insects, putting that under the microscope is like opening a birthday present, every single sample. And I'm looking at those specimens under the microscope and it's just wow, 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 wow. Look at all these amazing things. Look at all these amazing undescribed species. Look how much work I've got to do. 20 years ago, we discovered a whole new order of insects, the Mantophasmatodia, which are commonly called the heel walkers or the gladiators. We've got them on display here. And this was equivalent to discovering whales or bats for the first time.
Oh, for me, the best discovery was the Langebaan collection. The fantastic thing about it, and I know I bore people to death, but it's the fact that we have a bear, a wolverine, a giant otter, 4 species of hyena, all living in one place and living in South Africa 5 million years ago. These animals are actually not found in Africa at all today.
I love the intrigue of it all. It's fantastic to see or to understand what animal you're looking at when you're using the modern technology that we have available. Even more exciting to realize that you have found a new species that takes very long to describe, but nonetheless, it's a fantastic feeling to be part of the discovery.
So we discovered 15 new species, and I named most of them. I think about 10 of them. I named them in Xhosa. I gave them Xhosa names. One of them is Nezomomex njengelanga. Njengelanga means in English, like a sun. So the reason I named that is because the species is yellowish in color.
I was looking under the microscope and I saw this parasitoid wasp, and it had a parasite inside its gut, and I found that so bizarre and peculiar that a parasitoid wasp had a parasite. So it's really fascinating, and I discover new things every day, like strange structures on the insect, or the beautiful colors. They are so amazing.
So it was pretty cool being able to go out into the field collecting these wasp species, or actually different insect species, because we use different traps like Malay traps, yellow pans. We use microscopes to identify certain species, and we separate them according to family levels and then to species levels. It does get pretty tricky when you start trying to distinguish what is different species, and that's when we end up using genetic lab work.
So just over 30 years ago, we had a taxidermist who was working at the then South African Museum, and he harvested tissue from the quagga foal specimen that you see on display. Genetic analysis had actually found that the specimen is a completely different species to the domestic horse, and is very similar or is the same to the common zebra that we find. So I think it's absolutely fascinating that a specimen that we have in our collection was used to harvest tissue to sequence the first extinct animal.
Sometimes you're not able to remove all of the surrounding rock from an object, and that's where things like CT scanning come in, where you're able to see what's hidden and covered by rocky matrix. That sometimes reveals structures that you would never see.
There's a sense of curiosity, right? So I want to know, I've always asked the question why, I want to know what it is, why this animal looks like this, how did it get into the rock? But it does give a person, aka me as a paleontologist, a sense of perspective to hold this ancient rock. This is a rock that's shaped like a fossil, it's really heavy, and it's grounding. It's a solid object that used to be an animal 252 million years ago.
A great deal of work, as I said, goes into the collecting, the research on these specimens, but also the preservation and conservation of these collections. Hidden Wonders brings together collections from across the divide, natural history, social history, art, and so you also then have this integration across the disciplines, which I think is also a wonderful opportunity.
The most fascinating part of collections? I think the different collections. I mean, starting with insects up until fossils. And I like each collection, they each bring their own thing to the party.
At the moment, I think the most interesting specimen in my collection is definitely the endothiodon that is going on display in the Hidden Wonders exhibition. Simply because I was there when it was found, standing on the fossil, not knowing that it is actually a fossil, and then being told that, hey, you're standing on bones. So yeah, that's the most interesting one. And also because it's completely prepared. So yeah, it's a unique specimen.
When you are out there, it's always fun because we go to the new sites and nobody knows what's happening on the sites. The area is very remote.
In the Karo paleontology lab, we prepare fossils. As fossils sizipreparishayo siye sihambe siyozikhangela kwindawo eyiKaro, indawo ezomileyo. So indawo esiya kuzo zindawo ifossil ezikhe zafunyanwa khona ngaphambili.
The marine collection is very diverse. We have everything from microscopic plankton all the way up to whale sharks, giant squid, and it goes all the way back to 1801. So we have a very large timescale of specimens.
For me, it's the diversity of species, that we have in the collection, and also being able to work with specimens that date back to the 1800s, 1900s. It's quite interesting, and it's a privilege also to be working with.
The largest archaeological collections in sub-Saharan Africa. We have a material culture collection of just over 10,000 boxes, very important rock art collection, and it comprises of original pieces of painted rock. We have rock engravings, and we also have over 2,000 rock art reproductions.
Now, a child, a kid, may say, we used to go in the center of DRC in a park where we could see okapi, and it was quite interesting because, we used to think that okapi are zebra. And until when we begin to learn that okapi are not zebra, they are actually related to the giraffe family.
In our offerings as a museum, in terms of education, school learners have an opportunity to engage with the museum objects with the assistance of our museum educators, where they are given an opportunity to really think broadly about bigger problems and to use the resources that we have in the museum to solve global problems, local problems, national problems, and problems on the African continent.
My favorite wondrous objects in the display would be the giant squid. What fascinates me about them is that everything is extra about them. Just the arms, the brains. How can you have 3 brains? 9 brains and 3 hearts. Like to me, that's like...
Van die belangrikste goed wat hulle die meeste geniet in die museum is die megalodon, die kake van die megalodon haai in die museum, waar hulle foto's kan neem en iets huis toe vat saam met hulle. En ja, in die ontdekkingskamer is dit die amethyst. Die amethyst kristalle is die kristalle. Baie kinders kom museum toe om kristalle te sien, rotse, minerale, fossiele fascineer kinders baie. En dan ook nog die walvisgalery, die groot walvis wat daar in die middel van die museum hang. As hulle inkom en hulle sien die walvis, dan het dit 'n effek op hulle.
Every single day we do nation building here. For me, one of the areas that excites me most is that this museum has the indigenous social history. Concentrated in one area, but it is growing. And so we look at humanity. And we look at Southern African humanity and the contribution we've made to the species, the technological and the cognitive contributions we've made to the species, and that it's all mapped and recorded here.
Objects come from the field basically to the exhibition space, and how that whole process is unpacked is really fascinating, and and being involved in that is really amazing.
Here at the exhibition, we are the face of Iziko. Although we work behind the scene, but we are the face of Iziko.
Because we, from the ground up, we erect all these type of all display cases, it's lighting, it's painting. So there's not particularly any favorite one. It's all of them, because it's started raw, and it's amazing what it turns out to be at the end.
From the outside, you can see it as just a museum, but inside there are many interesting things that you can do and also can learn. So us as in our exhibition department, what we do, make sure that everyone, when they come, they see that coolness and also see that it's not just science.
It is wonderful because the kids always raise the snake. It is. And the thing that stands out for me, what I did is, when I painted the whales in the whale well, and it always reminds me of when I walk in there, that's what I did. I painted the whales, only me, alone, and it means a lot to me when I walk in there. And when I bring my small ones home.